Jim Kunkel here. Make sure that you subscribe to my channel and set the notification bell to all so that you won't miss any of my new content. With me today for this episode of Global Topic is John Lewall from Graco. John, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Jim. Appreciate it.
Hey, could you go into some detail about your role with Graco and what Graco does?
Sure. So to give a background on Graco, Graco is a company that was started in Minneapolis, Minnesota, a little over 90 years ago. Two brothers were working at an auto service center, and they had to grease cars in the winter. So with that, in Minnesota, in the cold winters, grease doesn't like to flow too well. So they came up with an automatic air-driven grease gun, and that's kind of how Graco started. So Graco touches many different aspects of everyone's everyday life today, and specifically related to coatings. The division I'm in, High Performance Coatings and Foam, specializes in the design and manufacture of protective coatings equipment. So for spraying epoxies, urethanes, those types of materials. I've been with Graco for a little over 12 years now. I started off basically right out of school as a mechanical engineer. Graco has an office in North Canton, Ohio. So I started off working there with our sealants and adhesives group. Moved into a product management role when we launched our line of Tough Tech mortar equipment for spraying and pumping cementitious materials. And now I'm an area sales manager with our High Performance Coatings and Foam group. And that I specialize in our spray foam and polyurea equipment, protective coatings equipment. We have a line of vapor abrasive blasting equipment for surface prep, and that Tough Tech mortar equipment that I mentioned. So I cover Ohio and the surrounding states for that.
Very interesting. So for this episode, John and I are going to be focusing our discussion on protective coatings application technology related to the spray application. So John, let me open this up. And over the last 20 years, the global protective coatings industry has really seen great advancements in coating systems. Polyureas, hybrid coatings. What technologies are currently available on industrial protective coating spray equipment?
So there, along with the advances in the coatings, there's been many advances in the equipment as well. Primarily, I'd like to focus a little bit on plural component equipment. You mentioned polyureas. Polyureas have a gel time or a set time of seconds as you spray them. So the only way to be able to apply a polyurea coating is through plural component equipment, where part A and part B, or the iso and the resin for poly, are kept separate up until they reach the spray gun. And in that spray gun is where they're mixed, and then they spray out and are atomized and applied. So that's been a big advancement that goes hand in hand with those polyurea materials. Speaking of slower setting materials like epoxies and some urethane coatings and some of the hybrids that are out there, plural component can play a big role as well. It's not necessarily something that's new here in the last decade, but the advancements in the equipment have made plural component equipment simpler to operate and use, and taken a lot of the intimidation and complexity out of the system as well. So there are systems out there that run more like a single leg or a single component sprayer than the plural systems. There's also been some great advances in terms of data acquisition and being able to record your spray data as you're spraying it with some of that equipment. Graco offers a system called the XM sprayer, and it's an electronic variable ratio proportioner. So it's plural component, but it records your spray temperatures, pressures, and the ratio that you're spraying while you're spraying. So it gives you a peace of mind that you can have that data to back up later on that, yes, I sprayed that job correctly, or also provide that information to your end customer or facility owner of, yes, this coating was applied per the spec. Good advances there. Of course, there's always advances in the materials that are used in the spray pumps and things like that, whether it's the plating that's used on them or the coatings that are on those pumps themselves to give longer life, less rebuilds over the life of the pump, more uptime. That's kind of our goal is to keep keep the contractors, keep the end users spraying while they're spraying.
That's interesting. What you just covered. In relation to using current high pressure spray equipment. What kind of performance and a cost savings can an industrial contractor expect to see?
So it's specifically related to the high pressure equipment. Now, as we see more and more coatings that have less and less solvents in them, we see more and more products out there that are 100% solids by volume. There's a lot more mandates coming down from different government agencies on the VOCs that are allowed, whether it's in a shop or even running into this instance with bridge painters and things like that now with the coatings that they're allowed to apply. As you reduce the amount of solids in those materials, they become thicker, much more viscous, harder to pump, spray, and atomize. So that's where the higher pressure equipment is needed. And that's where going with a plural component system can help as well. As I mentioned before, the plural systems, your part A and part B, your catalyst and base are kept separate up until they get to a point where they mix. The polyureas is at the gun, but with the slower setting materials, it could be back at a mixed manifold. And that mixed manifold could be 200 or 250 feet away from the actual spray machine or your spray rig. So if we think about the amount of material that are in those lines, if I have a faster setting material that I need to flush after every time I stop spraying, and then let's say it's an epoxy that's about $75 a gallon, I could have 2 gallons of mixed material in that line if I'm spraying with a single leg pump. So every time I go and flush, I'm having to flush out all that material. So that could be, $150 every time I flush of wasted coating. Whereas if I go to a plural component system, now I only have 35 feet, maybe 50 feet of spray hose from my mix block to my spray gun that I flush out. Everything else I can keep in those lines because part A and part B haven't come together. So I can save, 90% of that cost. So instead of $150 every time I flush, it's $15 every time I flush. So it could be a savings of $2,000, $2,500 a week just in that material savings. There's lots of other benefits with plural component equipment as well, as like time savings, labor savings on the job, only needing one person to run that spray rig instead of having 3 or 4 people mixing the materials to try and keep up with it. So that can be a big cost savings that a contractor can see rather quickly. And then just on the single leg side, being able to run 200, 250 feet of line from a setup, not having to move that pump around, have it close to where I'm spraying, be able to easily maneuver around a job site.
So you covered, the product solutions that are available from Graco on the industrial side. When it comes to the architectural, let's say the light industrial, architectural, and the commercial contractor, what type of cost savings and high efficiency equipment does Graco offer to the commercial and the architectural contractors that do work?
Yeah, so on that side of the business, that equipment's kind of driven by what we call internally in Graco our contractor equipment division. So they specialize in the smaller electric airless sprayers that you'll see at the paint channel and the paint stores. And with those, there's been some great advances as well as far as the coatings that are on the pumps themselves to provide long life. We have plating that we call max life that gives up to 6 times the life before you need to rebuild a pump. Some great advances in the engineering of the pump as well. They have a new technology they're calling the vortex pump, where the pump rod or shaft actually rotates as it's pumping. So it provides nice even wear along all the surfaces instead of just wearing in one point. And another nice feature that Graco came out with last year is called Blue Link. And so that allows owners of companies to be able to track the sprayers and not only track where they are in location, but how many gallons of paint have gone through each paint sprayer. So you can record the amount of uptime that you're having on that equipment, and then also be able to provide preventative maintenance, knowing how many gallons of paint have gone through that pump you know when it's time to rebuild that pump before you take it out onto a job site and, oh, I had a packing start leak, it's time to replace it. Well, that's downtime on the job now. So now you're able to proactively do that. A lot of that technology is also available on our high pressure side of the business from our protective coatings, specifically our polyurea equipment. Our reactor product line has an app available for it now on your phone, kind of like that Blue Link app, but it's called Reactor Connect. With Reactor Connect, once again, an owner can monitor their fleet of rigs. If they have more than one, they can see the uptime, how much material's been run through it, provide preventative maintenance on that rig. Another nice feature with Reactor Connect is the sprayer connection, or the painter can actually connect back to that machine as well, and they can adjust temperatures and pressures from their phone. So they no longer have to run 200, 300 feet back to the rig to make a small adjustment to get that material to spray correctly. They can do it all from their phone. I mentioned our XM line of sprayer with the amount of data that it can record. Now on the reactors as well, we have a ratio assurance system on there with flow meters that are monitoring that real-time ratio as well. So there's a lot of great advancements as terms, we see the Internet of Things everywhere now today, where I can connect my phone to virtually any kind of appliance in my house. Seeing similar things with spray equipment as well to provide, like I said, preventative maintenance, know where your rig's at, know what kind of uptime you're getting on it, so that once again, be able to provide more throughput through your equipment.
John, you provided a lot of great information related to, the industrial, the architectural, and the commercial contractors that do painting out there. And to everyone watching this episode, I will have in the video description below John's email address and also a link to Graco, so that you can please feel free to take a look at the products and solutions and the other information that Graco provides to the industry. In closing, John, question that I would have for you here would be, we've covered so much information here. Is there anything that we didn't cover that you feel is important to pass on to the viewers of this episode?
Yeah, say in terms of new equipment that's coming out, Graco just recently released a line of direct electric drive airless sprayers for protective coatings. So instead of having to tow around a big air compressor to run a coatings pump, we now have a system that's 240 volt, 20 amp. You can run it off of a small generator or plug it into a dryer outlet and be able to run it. It's a direct electric drive sprayer that's capable of 6,000 psi. It's called our Z60 sprayer. Graco now has a line of electrically heated hoses that are rated for hazardous locations like Class 1, Div 1 environments. There's lots of advances that are coming out. As I mentioned with that electric sprayer, I see efficiencies with that as far as not wasting hundreds of gallons in diesel or fuel a day, running a large compressor to run one paint pump. We have a whole team of engineers up in Minnesota constantly working to innovate and come up with new ideas. And we look to contractors in the field for a lot of those ideas. So if you have any ideas, please pass them along to your local Graco rep.
John, thank you for sharing that. Hey, is there anything last here you want to cover?
Yeah, thanks, Jim. Thanks for that. I did want to talk about our EcoQuip product line, and I almost forgot. EcoQuip is our brand name for our vapor abrasive blasting systems. And so these are for surface prep. So it goes hand in hand with our protective coatings equipment. Vapor abrasive blasting is like traditional dry sandblasting, but it uses a small amount of water with the process. So it knocks down up to 92% of the dust. So it allows a contractor to get in and do a surface prep job, but have a lot less cleanup and containment on that job site, or at the end of the day, a lot less spent media that they have to pick up and haul back with them. It's another great tool in the toolbox for protective coatings contractors that are out there. Graco has a team of technical sales specialists around the country that have demo equipment, and they'd be more than happy to do an on-site demo for you so you can see it work in person. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem, John. Hey, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you today and share the information, the solutions, and everything from Graco. I will have email address and then also website address for Graco for people to check out the site. Thank you, John. I appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you very much for inviting me to be on your YouTube show.
Okay, great. Have a great day.
Thanks. You too.